Hi, welcome along to Blue Yonder Moto. I'm Alan, and today I'm going to be reviewing this, an Arai Rapide helmet. It's an initial review. I've had the helmet just over 2 weeks now. So without further ado, let's go back inside where it's a little bit warmer. So what made me choose the Ha? Well, I just like the style of it. I do like the retro looks of it. I think the colour, this particular yellow, is a little bit Joey Dunlop-esque, which appeals to me because Joey's of my sort of generation, and I saw him racing around the Isle of Man TT in the 80s. So it, for me, has a lot of resonance in terms of the my sort of biking history. So, and again, I just like the distinctive nature of it. I think it looks a little bit different. It's not the same as every other lid that you see out there. It's not trying to be a GP lookalike. It's got its own individual style, which I think is a really good thing. Now the Ha, or Ha, depending on what you want to refer to it as, the Ha actually stands for Hirotaki Arai, who was the founder of the Arai motor helmet company in Japan. And I wanted an Arai again. I've had a Shoei NXR, which has been a great helmet, great servant. I've had it for 6 years now. But it was starting to show signs of wear and tear and getting a little bit baggy in the lining, and the visor mechanism wasn't quite as slick as it had been. So after 6 years, it's the recommended change period anyway on most helmets. So I thought, time for a change. I've had Arai in the past. I've had a couple of Chaser helmets going back to 2005, 2006, and they've always been pretty good. So, and they've always been a good fit for me too. They've always fitted me quite well. And I know people say there's no such thing as an Arai head or a Shoei head, but I have to say they do fit far better than a lot of the other makes that I've tried over the years. So it's kind of a no-brainer really going back to something like an Arai. And this particular helmet I like because I'm just a sucker for the retro looks. I must be turning into a little bit of a hipster in my old age. I have to say, spoiler alert, it's not as good as I thought it was going to be. There's a couple of issues which I'll come on to in a few minutes. But first of all, the good stuff, I think it looks absolutely superb. And the finish on the helmet is absolutely fantastic. It really is a beautiful helmet in terms of its looks. First of all, ventilation. So we have standard issue Arai double click eyebrow vents, which you can see there, which yet to be tried in earnest on the bike. But what I will say is that in my experience in the past, they're always pretty good. There's also ventilation here on the chin guard. Now it looks as though it's open permanently, but it's not. So I don't know if you can see it there, but there's a little lever to open and close on the vents there. Exit is via a Venturi system on the rear of the helmet at the bottom, and there's a further one here too. So as you can see, there are no venting ports or ducts spoiling the shape, the smooth shape of the crown of the helmet, and this should make it quieter in operation. We're yet to see whether that's the case. But this is the classic Arai R75 shape. The R75 standing for a continuous convex radius of a minimum of 75 millimeters across the whole of the dome of the lid. Now we'll come on to the things that so far that I've found that, as far as I'm concerned, aren't as good as I thought they were going to be. And it's all around the visor. The lifting mechanism, the opening mechanism, is via this lever here, which should mean it clicks up, but on mine it doesn't. Now I purchased the lid from Motolegends, so I am going to be back in touch with them to see whether or not either A, I've put the visor back on incorrectly when I've taken it off to put the pin lock on, or there is a fault with the mechanism. It's not great, I have to say. It's not brilliant. And the second is when it comes to changing the visor. So to change the visor, you need to unscrew these slot head screws here, and it says use a coin, and I have done that. I have used a coin on it, but it's a real faff. It really is a faff. And when you take it off, the whole mechanism, the whole two-piece mechanism comes off complete with the visor, and to actually put a dark visor on there, which is my intention, but to put a dark visor on there, you essentially have to take apart these the cover plate and the base plate here, and he basically just falls into the almost too difficult box. So anyway, enough of talk about the actual helmet on the desk. Let's go and see what it's like on the bike, shall we? So there you have it. As you can probably see there, finding the latch mechanism, finding it wasn't a problem, but actually activating it to pop the visor up and to actually find the tab, it's going to take a lot of practice. As you can see, the lip of it isn't actually that big, and this lift mechanism here, it just feels, you know, cheap and not what I would call Arai quality, not what I've come to expect in the past from Arai. Maybe it will improve with time as I get used to the thing. Hopefully it will, because at a £500 helmet, you certainly expect, you know, the best. You expect everything to work perfectly. However, on the plus side, I did ride here without earplugs. Normally I ride with earplugs, and I have to say it was pretty quiet. It was certainly as quiet as any other helmet I've found, and certainly by reputation Arai is supposed to be noisy helmets, but I don't think so. I think it's pretty good. Okay, we're now a week on from the initial ride and the initial impressions, so how do we summarise my experience so far with the Arai Rapide? Well, first of all, I think it's a fantastic looking helmet. I think it looks absolutely superb, and obviously so do the general public, because if you stop at petrol stations, etc., everybody clocks the helmet. It's certainly noticeable in it. So that's the first thing. Secondly, it's built like the proverbial brick, you know what. It feels really safe and secure. Although it's got retro looks, there's nothing retro about the safety performance of the helmet. It's absolutely superb. As I say, the overall fit and finish, is the paint finish particularly, is absolutely lustrous. It's fantastic. So that's a big thumbs up for that. The noise levels inside the helmet when you're riding seem pretty acceptable. Certainly nothing to worry about, and probably better than an awful lot of helmets that are out there. So again, I think that gets the thumbs up. The overall comfort of the helmet, it's a little bit snug at the moment, but I'm sure it will bed in. You certainly can change the cheek pads and indeed the crown, I believe, but certainly you can change the cheek pads for a slightly easier fit. Okay, so let's talk about the not so good bits. Well, for me, the not so good bit, the main not so good bit, is this latch mechanism here on the visor. I find it quite fiddly. It's certainly getting better as I'm getting used to it, but it's still not as good as or as intuitive as a lot of other visor mechanisms and other makes of helmet. So as I say, that's not my favourite part of this particular helmet. I think it lets it down a little bit. But the biggest issue is potentially visor swaps. So if you want to use a darker visor, practically the only way to really deal with it is to have these mounting plates already mounted, a spare set already mounted on your dark visor, and then it is simply unscrewing the two screws on either mount. So in summary then, I think it's a pretty good helmet. I'm quite pleased with it. I'm not in love with it yet, but that may happen over time. I think it's a pretty good helmet. Will I tour in it? Probably not. I'll probably use my AGV AX8 for touring, but certainly for general riding, I think it will be a really stylish acquisition, and something I'm looking forward to riding. So until next time, please remember, keep it shiny side up, keep it safe, and I'll see you again soon. Bye now.